This is part B of Revelation Lesson 17, my presentation of Bible passages that show that religion has controlled all the kingdoms of the world throughout history. Enjoy. They were worshiping the temple, and that cannot profit. If it couldn't profit then, it can't profit today. Only God can help us. Your church building can't help you. It can be blown away by a tornado or burned down or blown up by the terrorists. But Almighty God is our only God and protector and provider and Savior. Jeremiah 10, verse 11. The gods that have not made the heavens and the earth will perish from the earth and from under these heavens. So false gods are lies or deceptions. They don't even exist. Not really. You may have an image of one, but they're demons behind them. The Bible is very clear about that. They're demons behind religion, behind these false gods that people worship. Demons. It said they sacrificed their children to demons. They sacrificed it to Baal, some foreign god, but it was really a demon. They sacrificed their children to demons, and people are still doing that today. They might not call it Baal, might not call it a god, but they're sacrificing their kids to the devil today, abortion and so forth. Jeremiah 50, verse 2. This is a prophecy of the destruction of Babylon in those days. Babylon has never been totally destroyed yet, but will be in the last days. But their destruction and being taken over by the Medes and the Persians was coming soon, and this is a prophecy of it. Babylon is taken. This is a prophecy. It hadn't happened at that time, but they were prophesying it. So this is what's actually going to happen. Baal, B-E-L, that was one of the names of one of their gods, the name of one of their gods. Baal, one of their gods, is shamed. Merodach, another one of their gods, so they had at least two gods in Babylon, is broken in pieces. Their idols are humiliated. Her images are broken in pieces. So here's another proof that Babylon worshiped false gods. That's pictured by that woman riding the seven-headed beast, religious system controlling all those kingdoms, including Babylon. In Ezekiel 8:14, this had invaded Israel. Israel took on all these false gods and worshiped them just like their pagan neighbors. And so Ezekiel saw this in God's temple. Women were sitting there at the door of the Lord's house, the temple, weeping for Tammuz. I remember reading that word Tammuz, that name of one of the false gods, in extra biblical material, Tammuz. And the Bible talks about it. Use that very name. Tammuz was one of the false deities that they worshipped, and these women were weeping for Tammuz. I won't go into that story, but there's a reasoning behind that. Okay, Daniel 3:1. Nebuchadnezzar, the first king of Babylon, made an image of gold, 90 feet high and 9 feet wide. But he demanded that everybody in his kingdom worship that idol, that great image, 90-foot tall image. But some of the Hebrews, prisoners that were there, were in the official capacities. They were ruling in Babylon because they were good people, faithful people, and useful to the king. But they were accused by some of the other nations in Babylon. Babylon was made up of a lot of different nationalities. In Daniel 3:12, he was told, "There are certain Jews whom you, King Nebuchadnezzar, have set over the affairs in the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego." And they were jealous of them because they were Jews, prisoners of war, and they were a higher officially than these other people, and they were jealous. So those Israelites, O king, have not paid due regard to you. They do not serve your gods, talking about Babylon, Babylon worshiping gods, nor will they worship the gold image which you set up. So here's another proof that religion ruled Babylon. Now, these guys' response when they were threatened with the furnace of fire because they wouldn't worship their gods or that 90-foot image, they responded to the king this way, Daniel 3:17-18. Our God, the one we serve, the only true God, is able to deliver us from the flaming fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, Babylonian gods, nor will we worship the gold image that you have set up. And so they were thrown into the fire, but they were delivered. Didn't even have the smell of smoke on them when they came out. And so they refused to be religious. They refused to worship false gods. They worshiped only the true God, and the true God delivered them. Daniel 5:23, the last Babylonian king. He threw a party, a lot of people, 1,000 or more, I think. And they were drunk and partying and having a great time, and so they decided to go get the golden vessels and silver vessels that had been stolen out of the temple of God by Nebuchadnezzar, their first king, and stored in Babylon. And so he said, y'all get them out, and we're just going to drink booze out of them. And that's what they did. And so they saw a hand, just a hand writing on the wall. And they couldn't figure out what it was saying, and so they brought Daniel in to interpret the message, and it was a severe one. And here's part of what Daniel said in Daniel 5:23. You, king, lifted yourself up against the Lord of heaven, the only true and living God. They brought the vessels of his house before you, and your lords, your wives and concubines have drunk wine out of them, and you have praised the gods of silver and gold and bronze and iron, wood and stone, and the God who holds your very breath in his hands and owns all your ways you have not glorified. Now moving to Matthew, New Testament, Matthew 27:24 through 26. Jesus was accused by the Jews, brought to Pilate. He wanted to free Jesus, but they wanted him crucified. And so they were about to riot. So, Matthew 27:24 through 26. When Pilate realized that he could not prevail over that Jewish religious crowd, but instead a riot was just about to take place, he washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I'm innocent of the blood of this just person. And the people said, his blood be upon us and upon our children. Then Pilate freed Barabbas, scourged Jesus, and sent him away to be crucified. So here you have a case of Pilate, a Roman governor representing the kingdom of Rome, the empire of Rome, bowing to the religious pressure of the Jews. They were Jews, but they were not godly. And so here's a Roman official bowing to religion. Another picture of that woman riding a seven-headed beast, and Rome was one of those heads. Mark 15:15 talks about the same thing. And Pilate, wanting to gratify the religious crowd, the Jews gave Rome a lot of problems, and so they did whatever they could to pacify them and to keep them from rioting. And so here again, Pilate, a Roman governor representing the empire of Rome, was bowing to religious pressure. Pilate, wanting to gratify the religious crowd, released Barabbas unto them, and after he had scourged Jesus, delivered him to be crucified. So Rome again was yielding to religion. Acts 19:23 through 41. There arose a great commotion about the way. Several places in the New Testament, Christianity is called the way. It's the way of life, real life. Christianity, the way. So a great commotion arose about the way, because Demetrius, a silversmith, who made silver shrines for Diana, a goddess, brought no small profit to the craftsmen. So he called them together with the workers of similar occupation, and he said, get this, you know that we have our prosperity by this trade. That's the bottom line. Religion is involved, but the bottom line is a dollar sign, so to speak. You know that we have our prosperity by this trade. That's what's really important to them. And you see and hear that not only at Ephesus, but throughout almost all of Asia, this Paul has persuaded and turned away many people, saying that there are no gods that are made with hands. Paul was telling them the truth. There is only one real God, the creator of this universe. So not only is this lucrative trade of ours in danger of falling into disrepute, see, that's first, that's the top of the list, but also the temple of the great goddess Diana might be despised. See, religion comes second. The bottom line is a dollar sign. And her magnificence destroyed, whom all Asia and the world worship, but they worshiped a false God. That's religious false worship. Then one of the city officials calmed down that crowd. It was a riot. And he calmed them down. And then he had this to say. Men of Ephesus, who does not know that Ephesus is the temple guardian of the great goddess Diana, the image that fell down from Zeus, the chief god in that religion. So there are more than one god. They worship multiple gods. And these are all lies. They're falsehoods. But this man said, oh, everybody knows this. They were taught that, but it was a lie. Since these things cannot be denied, he said, you need to settle down and do nothing rash. Because these men are neither robbers of temples or blasphemers of your goddess. And he dismissed the crowd. Now later on, Acts 24:27, Paul is a prisoner and not at Rome yet. And he's awaiting his trial. And they keep putting it off. Acts 24:27. After 2 years, this Porcius Festus, the governor, during that time, succeeded Felix, who was the governor before. And Felix, wanting to do the Jews a favor, yielding to the religious pressure of the Jewish religious leaders, left Paul bound in prison. Now, you might say, well, you didn't cover medieval Persia and Greece. If you study history and more of the Bible, I just hit the highlights. If you study it all, you'll find out they had gods too. In fact, if you remember in Acts somewhere, Paul was in Athens. That's Greece. And they had a garden where they had the statues of all the gods that they worshipped in those days. A garden full of statues of different gods. And so Paul was viewing that, and he saw they had one statue to the unknown God. They didn't want to leave anyone out and offend one of the gods that they might not know the name of. So Paul said, okay, I'll tell you about the unknown God. You don't know him, so I'll tell you about him. And he preached Jesus and the gospel message, basically. So they all did worship gods, and therefore the picture that John saw in Revelation about a woman, Mystery Babylon, a religious system, riding that beast that had 7 heads, so she ruled each of the heads, which represented kingdoms, each 7 different kingdoms, and she was over all of them. Religion ruled over all of them. So, Rome, just like all those other Gentile kingdoms, was dominated by religion, represented by that woman riding on that scarlet-colored beast, which John saw in Revelation 17, had 7 heads, 7 different kingdoms. And that will be that way right up to the very end. This world today is ruled basically by religious ideas. Even atheism is basically a religion because it claims that man is his own God. So anything that attacks God is a religious idea. It's a religion in itself. And the devil is behind all movements that disparage the Creator. See, they're anti-God concepts. So they're all religions, and many people worship religions today, worship false gods. There are false concepts and false ideas about God today, much of it happening in the church. And that makes every one of them a form of religion. They all worship something other than the one true God. But the one true God will bring all this into judgment. And when it's over, everybody will see just where God is, just where He says He is in His Bible. He said it all along, and He'll prove it in the end. He's proven it all along here and there, but He'll prove it conclusively when He wraps all this up and takes over the kingdoms of the world and rules forever and ever through Jesus Christ over God's own people. And that is where God really is.